Buckle up, gearheads! The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona isn't just a muscle car legend, it's a beast shrouded in mystery. They built it to dominate NASCAR, but what if I told you Dodge buried some seriously weird secrets to keep the competition guessing? We're about to unleash 20 hidden facts that'll spike your curiosity and deliver that sweet dopamine hit when the truth drops. Let's rev it up. Fact 1. Ever wonder why this aero monster looks like it escaped a sci-fi flick? Teaser. Dodge didn't design it in-house, they outsourced the madness. Turns out all 503 Daytonas started life as Charger 500S, then were shipped off to Creative Industries, an off-site Detroit firm specializing in wild customs. They took standard Chargers and radically reworked them. Fiberglass noses, nose cones, and that massive wing. All 503 were conversions, not a separate factory-built line. Creative Industries stitched the Daytona together like a custom hot rod shop, mixing off-the-shelf Charger bodies with radical aero add-ons. Think of it as a Frankenstein build. Standard chassis, radical body, sewn together to meet NASCAR rules. Official records show conversions, and the VIN/assembly paperwork betrayed the outsourced process. It was about one thing, making the car fast enough to dominate superspeedways. And the aero worked. On track it was a different animal. Dodge lost money on every unit. Estimates say roughly $1 to $1.5 grand per car. They absorbed about $1,000 to $1,500 in losses per Daytona. Why? Homologation. You had to build a minimum number of road cars to justify a race aero part. Dodge didn't care about showroom profit. They wanted wins and the glory that sold the brand. A financial loss on paper, a marketing win on the track. Creative Industries was a small Detroit shop, used to wild one-off jobs. The perfect partner for Dodge's radical homologation play. Skilled hands shaped nose cones and bonded huge rear wings. It was artisanal work at scale. From ordinary Charger to Aero Monster, the transformations were obvious and radical. This hidden hand made it a true Frankenstein of the muscle era. On superspeedways, the aero advantage was clear. Higher top speeds, better stability, exactly what Dodge paid to achieve. Those wins justified the expense in the court of public opinion. Press headlines turned losses into legend. So yes, Dodge outsourced the madness, ate the cost, and raced an engineered monster. All 503 Daytonas started as Chargers and were reborn by Creative Industries. A Frankenstein of parts, a marketing masterpiece, and a strategic gamble that paid off on the racetrack. Fact 2. What if the iconic nose cone wasn't what everyone thinks? It's not fiberglass, that's a total myth. Journalists got the story wrong for years. Magazines and papers repeated the fiberglass line again and again. It became shorthand, the easy explanation that stuck. Rumors spread faster than facts. But here's the truth. Look under the myth. The pointed snout is stamped steel, just like the rest of the body. Not a separate fiberglass add-on, a formed steel panel. These cars used heavy-gauge stamped panels from the factory. Precision stamping controlled the nose geometry. These were production parts, not fragile fiberglass add-ons. Why steel? Because the shape was engineered for speed. Engineers tested nose shapes to slice the air like a knife. The contour reduced separation and smoothed airflow. That work delivered a drag coefficient of 0.28. Impressive even by today's standards. Lower drag meant higher top speed and stability. Blueprints show the stamped panel geometry, radii, and mounts. These were designed components, not homemade add-ons. Modern analysis confirms the intended aerodynamics. So how did the myth endure? Sensational copy sells, and a simple story stuck. Dodge kept quiet, feeding the mystique on purpose. That silence shaped mythology more than the material did. Mystique can be more powerful than fact in car culture, and silence kept the aura alive. Engineers focused on function, durability, and aerodynamics. Steel offered the stiffness needed at speed, and it held up under race conditions. In the tunnel, the nose kept airflow attached longer. That equals less drag and better stability. Small shape changes made measurable differences. Even modern cars aim for similar drag numbers. Daytona's results still look good on paper. The design was about performance, not just looks. Collectors still cherish the look and the lore. They pass down stories, some true, some embellished. But the performance was very real. Material tests confirmed the panels were steel, not composite. Thickness and yield strength match stamped parts. Factory paperwork lists these as production steel parts. Once a story gains traction, it often outlives the facts. Online debate keeps myths alive across generations, but restoration returns us to the original reality, steel. The nose is both legend and engineered solution. Appreciate the story, but love the engineering behind it. It's a testament to design that served a purpose. So the truth is straightforward and impressive. Not glamorous myth, real engineering and manufacturing. That engineering made the car what it is. So next time you hear the fiberglass story, remember the facts. Stamped steel, wind tunnel shape, CD 0.28. Dodge kept quiet, and the legend lived on. Think the massive 23-inch wing was just for show? Teaser. It had to be that tall for a hilariously practical reason. You might laugh, but there was a method behind the madness. The wing's height wasn't arbitrary. It allowed the trunk lid to open fully without obstruction. That simple clearance was crucial for race prep and weight checks, but the height had aerodynamic purpose too. Raised above the deck, the wing could shape airflow more cleanly, generating far more downforce at speed than a lower wing would. Aerodynamically, it generated insane downforce at high speeds, pressing the car to the track and improving high-speed stability. That added grip let drivers push harder on the straights and through sweeps. All that engineering paid off in a big way, helping the Daytona become the first NASCAR car to crack 200 miles per hour. A milestone nobody had seen in stock car racing yet. Buddy Baker was the man who did it, taking that Daytona to the edge at Talladega in 1970. The track, the crowd, the tension, pure adrenaline. At a certain moment the needle crossed a magic line. 200 miles per hour. The first time in NASCAR history. A watershed for the sport and a testament to design. Engineers measured, tweaked, and validated that tall placement. Because that few inches made both practical sense and aerodynamic sense. A clever compromise between serviceability and performance, so the funny-looking towering wing was really a performance tool. Melding form and function to unlock unprecedented speed. A bold shape that changed how stock cars raced. In the context of 1970, this was nothing short of revolutionary. Teams were scrambling to adapt aero tricks to gain any edge. And at Talladega, it all came together. Buddy focused, trusted the car, and pushed it past what anyone had done. A moment of skill, bravery, and engineering meeting on the racetrack. And then the numbers told the story. 200 miles per hour. A number that sounded like pure adrenaline. A breakthrough that echoed through the sport. A brave new era of speed had arrived. The lessons from that tall wing live on in modern aero design. Every inch of aero is still debated, tested, and optimized. So next time you see that towering 23-inch wing, remember, it was as practical as it was powerful. Buddy Baker, Talladega 1970, the first to break 200 miles per hour. Fact 4. Dealers hated selling these. Hook. Some actually ripped off the wings and noses to make them normal. Explanation. Priced at around $4,600, a fortune in '69, many sat unsold. Desperate dealers converted a few back to standard Chargers, destroying what are now million-dollar icons. Legend says they begged customers to buy something else via frantic telegrams. Talk about buyer's remorse in reverse. Desperate dealers converted a few back to standard Chargers, destroying what are now million-dollar icons. Legend says they begged customers to buy something else via frantic telegrams. Talk about buyer's remorse in reverse. Fact 5. Only 503 made, but how rare is rare? Teaser. Dodge got 1,200 orders but ghosted most buyers. Explanation. Overwhelmed by demand, Dodge couldn't produce more without violating NASCAR rules. They sent telegrams urging swaps for other models, leaving fans heartbroken. This scarcity jacked up values. Today a Hemi version can fetch over $3.3 million at auction. Hidden supply drama at its finest. Fact 6. The engine lineup hides a beast. Teaser. Only 70 got the fire-breathing option that made it unstoppable. Explanation. While most packed the 375 HP 440 Magnum, just 70 scored the legendary 426 Hemi with 425 GP. These rarities were NASCAR-tuned monsters, but Dodge downplayed numbers to avoid scrutiny. On the street, they were overkill, pure, untamed power that scared even pros. Fact 5. Only 503 made, but how rare is rare? Teaser. Dodge got 1,200 orders but ghosted most buyers. Explanation. Overwhelmed by demand, Dodge couldn't produce more without violating NASCAR rules. They sent telegrams urging swaps for other models, leaving fans heartbroken. This scarcity jacked up values. Today a Hemi version can fetch over $3.3 million at auction. They sent telegrams urging swaps for other models, leaving fans heartbroken. This scarcity jacked up values. Today a Hemi version can fetch over $3.3 million at auction. Hidden supply drama at its finest. Fact 6. The engine lineup hides a beast. Teaser. Only 70 got the fire-breathing option that made it unstoppable. Explanation. While most packed the 375 HP 440 Magnum, just 70 scored the legendary 426 Hemi with 425 GP. These rarities were NASCAR-tuned monsters, but Dodge downplayed numbers to avoid scrutiny. On the street, they were overkill, pure, untamed power that scared even pros. These rarities were NASCAR-tuned monsters, but Dodge downplayed numbers to avoid scrutiny. On the street, they were overkill, pure, untamed power that scared even pros. Explanation. While most packed the 375 HP 440 Magnum, just 70 scored the legendary 426 Hemi with 425 GP. Fact 4. Dealers hated selling these? Hook. Some actually ripped off the wings and noses to make them normal. Fact 5. Only 503 made, but how rare is rare? Teaser. Dodge got 1,200 orders but ghosted most buyers. Fact 7. Banned from racing? Hook. NASCAR changed rules because it was too dominant and too weird. After winning the inaugural Talladega 500 and setting records, NASCAR banned aero cars with engines over 305 CI in 1971. The Daytona's speed, first to 200 miles per hour, terrified rivals. It didn't just win, it rewrote what a stock car could do on super speedways. Dodge's Winged Warrior sparked the aero wars, but the ban hid how it embarrassed Ford and others. Clubs and competitors watched as aero pieces folded the playing field into something else entirely. Rivals called it unfair, others called it ridiculous. Behind closed doors, manufacturers scrambled to respond. NASCAR moved to protect competition and safety, banning aero cars with engines over 305 cubic inches in 1971. It was a rule change that erased an era almost overnight. After winning the inaugural Talladega 500 and setting records, NASCAR banned aero cars with engines over 305 CI in 1971. The spectacle was over as quickly as it began. Aero cars reduced drag and increased stability, decisive advantages at 200 miles per hour. When you can cut seconds with design alone, racing changes. But the ban also hid how it embarrassed Ford and others. Manufacturers with long investment in muscle felt the sting publicly and privately. Inspections got tighter. The rulebook was suddenly central to every race weekend. What once seemed like innovation became forbidden territory. Today, the Daytona's moment is preserved behind glass, a reminder of how fast rules can change, and a story that still sparks debate among gearheads. Coming up, Fact 8, flush rear window? Teaser, it wasn't for looks. It fixed a deadly aero flaw. Stay with us for how a small change saved speed from becoming lethal. Racing evolves fast. Sometimes rules follow even faster. Next, the hidden fix that turned a flop into a flyer. Fact 8. Flush rear window? Teaser. It wasn't for looks, it fixed a deadly aero flaw. The standard Charger's recessed window caused lift at high speeds, making it unstable. The recessed window created a pocket where air would separate and lift the rear at speed. At 180 to 200 miles per hour, that instability could be deadly. The Daytona's plugged flush design stabilized it, but early tests showed overheating issues, hence fender scoops. By sealing the recess, airflow stayed attached and the rear stayed planted. But sealing the back had unintended consequences. Less natural ventilation for the engine and brakes. Hence the fender scoops, a practical patch to an aerodynamic fix. The scoops brought cooling air where it was needed while preserving the clean rear profile. Stability improved, drivers could trust the car at higher speeds. Early tests showed the problem, and the quick engineering response that followed. They iterated, adding scoops, adjusting ducts, tuning the setup for both speed and survivability. This hidden fix turned a flop into a flyer. The solution wasn't pretty by aesthetic standards, it was functional and it worked. Those fender scoops are humble little heroes of automotive engineering. They kept the airflow benefits while removing the deadly lift. On track, the difference was clear. A car that could carry speed through corners without the terror of sudden lift. Fans and teams alike noticed the change. A tiny change in profile altered handling, safety, and racing history. That's why looks sometimes hide much deeper reasons. Next, fact 9. Richard Petty's role? Hook. The king ditched Dodge, forcing the Daytona's birth. A driver move that set off a scramble you might not expect. From dangerous lift to a practical fix, engineering won the day. Up next, the Petty drama that brought the Daytona into being. Fact 9. Richard Petty's role? Hook. The king ditched Dodge, forcing the Daytona's birth. In '68, Petty jumped to Ford after the Charger 500 flopped. It was a high-profile loss for Dodge. Dodge panicked, creating the Daytona to lure him back. They needed a halo car, something flashy and fast enough to win back the king. It worked. He returned in '70 with the Superbird sibling. The Superbird and Daytona became twin symbols of that scramble. This petty, pun intended, drama was swept under the rug to save face. Publicly, a victory. Privately, industry egos bruised and repaired. When Petty returned, headlines followed, and fans flocked to the new machines. The cars sold the story, the drivers sold the legend. Dodge turned the scramble into a marketing epic. The Daytona became a poster child. The myth grew faster than the controversy faded. This petty drama was swept under the rug to save face. Teams protect reputations, the public gets the glory. His moves shifted more than podiums, they shifted design priorities and marketing strategies. The king shaped the sport in ways fans still debate. These three facts, the ban, the flush window fix, and Petty's drama, are threads of the same fabric: speed, survival, and showmanship. Fact 7. Banned from racing. NASCAR changed rules because it was too dominant and too weird. Fact 8. Flush rear window. It wasn't for looks, it fixed a deadly aero flaw. Fact 9. Richard Petty's role. The king ditched Dodge, forcing the Daytona's birth. Fact 10. Pop-up headlights myth. Teaser. Early prototypes had them, but production said nope, for a sneaky reason. Fact 11. One untitled survivor. Hook. A brand new Daytona that's never been registered, still exists. Fact 12. Wing different from Superbird. Teaser. Geometry tweaks hid overheating cures. Join us as we unpack 3 lesser-known Daytona secrets: design, discovery, and aerodynamic trickery. Early concept sketches show flip-up headlights as an idea on early prototypes. But production cars took a different path, one shaped by wind tunnels and top speed goals. These small choices mattered. Sometimes they were the difference between claims and records. We start with the pop-up headlight myth, then a barn-find time capsule, and finish with the secret wing geometry. Fact 10 first, the hidden aero choice that helped push the Daytona toward 200 miles per hour. Fact 10, pop-up headlights myth. Early prototypes had them, but production said nope, for a sneaky reason. Voiced by Alex. Now, to the wind tunnels. Wind tunnel tests showed fixed lights in the nose cone were more aero-efficient. Smoke tracers and pressure readings made it clear. Open cavities cost drag. Even a few hundredths of a coefficient added measurable top speed loss. Early prototypes had flip-up lights on paper and in mock-ups, but production cars arrived with fixed lights integrated into the nose cone. The difference looked small, but aerodynamically, it wasn't. Dodge engineers prioritized drag reduction in late-stage tests. Graphs and test runs showed the fixed nose beat the flip-up arrangement. That subtle swap shaved tenths off drag, crucial for reaching the 200-mount barrier. On the track, those tenths translated directly to top-end speed. Drivers reported cleaner airflow and more stable high-speed behavior. The production choice helped the Daytona get closer to that magic 200-mph figure. Dodge quietly hid the flip-ups to cut drag further, but rumors persisted. Decisions were often made in test reports and closed-door meetings. What looked like a styling call was a deliberate aerodynamic trade-off. Enthusiasts propagated myths. Were flip-ups ever real on Daytonas rolling out of the factory? The answer? Prototypes had them, but production did not. The prototype artifacts lived in drawings and early mock-ups. That subtle swap helped hit that 200-mouth barrier, proving every inch mattered in the hidden aero battles. Wind tunnel validation gave production engineers the confidence to commit to the change. Small aero gains compounded into real gains at speed. Next, an almost unbelievable barn find, untouched and untitled. Fact 11. One untitled survivor, a brand new Daytona that's never been registered, still exists. Let's step inside. Discovered in a barn, this pristine 69 was never sold or titled, preserved like a time capsule. It had never been registered, papers that never left the factory paperwork pile. Under the dust, factory details were intact. Dodge's production quirks meant a few cars slipped through cracks. VIN plates, build sheets, and untouched factory stickers told the story. The paperwork showed it was never sold or titled. Interiors showed near factory condition, unworn seats, crisp gauges, original radio. Mechanically, it appeared untouched since packing. An odometer that barely moved added to the time capsule claim. Dodge's fast production and distribution schedules sometimes left inventory anomalies. A few units could be misrouted or not processed completely. Missing stamps and paperwork explained how some cars remained unsold. Valued sky high, this untouched Daytona became a collector's obsession. Pristine, never titled status multiplies desirability and value. Experts looked for originality, matching numbers and factory accessories. The discovery often starts with a local call and a tarp in a barn. The moment of reveal is cinematic. Light, dust, and a car frozen in time. Collectors and historians felt like they'd found automotive archaeology. Original spec plates, trim tags, and factory paint codes confirmed authenticity. Factory accessories and manuals reinforced the never-sold story. Matching numbers sealed the deal for serious collectors. When these cars emerged, they reshaped values and narratives about production history. Next, how a wing angle solved overheating and differed from Plymouth's Superbird. Let's examine the wing geometry that kept Daytonas running on long hauls. Fact 12. The Daytona's wing was angled differently to vent heat better than prototypes. Details in the geometry were subtle but purposeful. Engineers adjusted angle, height, and end plate shape to influence airflow under the car. Those tweaks improved underbody flow and venting, reducing heat buildup on long runs. Prototype tests showed higher underbody temperatures that needed mitigation. On long hauls, overheating could force retirements, an unacceptable risk for performance credibility. The Plymouth Superbird refined some of the Daytona's wing tweaks for its own needs. The Superbird used slightly different end plates and angle for a different aero balance. Both cars benefited from functional wing geometry, but each solved distinct problems. Dodge kept these engineering hacks secret to maintain an edge. The wing directed airflow to help pull hot air out and keep underbody temps lower. Telemetry and thermal readings confirmed the effectiveness. These changes prevented meltdowns on long hauls, literal race-ending overheating. Keeping temperatures in check ensured reliability at speed. Thermal control kept performance consistent over endurance runs. Dodge shielded some tweaks from competitors to keep a competitive advantage. Iterative prototype work refined angles and mounting to balance cooling and downforce. Small hardware choices influenced structural and aerodynamic performance. In practice, the wing geometry kept engines happier over long distances. Where prototypes showed stress, production geometry reduced that risk. Design details mattered. Angle, height, and end plate shape all played roles. Tire pressure secret? Teaser. Fender ports let you check without bending over. Tire pressure secret. Teaser. Fender ports let you check without bending over. Hidden scoops on fenders doubled as tire inflators. A racer's dream for quick pits. Hidden scoops on fenders doubled as tire inflators. A racer's dream for quick pits. They were cleverly routed to reach the tires without the crew having to crouch at speed. They were cleverly routed to reach the tires without the crew having to crouch at speed. Dodge buried this in specs to focus on speed, but it was a clever nod to practicality in a car built for ovals, not errands. Dodge buried this in specs to focus on speed, but it was a clever nod to practicality in a car built for ovals, not errands. Mechanics who know this trick today can check pressures with barely a glance. Mechanics who know this trick today can check pressures with barely a glance. On the track, seconds count. Anything that saved motion was gold. On the track, seconds count. Anything that saved motion was gold. It was less about convenience for daily drivers and more about shaving time where it mattered. Dodge buried this in specs to focus on speed, But it was a clever nod to practicality in a car built for ovals, not errands. It was a small detail but a racer's kind of practicality. Restorers prize original hardware. The ports, fittings, and routing tell the story. Restorers prize original hardware. The ports, fittings, and routing tell the story. A subtle secret that still delights hands-on enthusiasts. But not all Daytonas survive to be cherished. But not all Daytonas survive to be cherished. Lost to time? Hook. Some Daytonas were crushed or parted out before values soared. Lost to time? Hook. Some Daytonas were crushed or parted out before values soared. In the 70s oil crisis, many were junked as gas guzzlers. Dealers scrapped unsold ones. Dealers scrapped unsold ones. Parts were harvested, engines, wings, unique trim, anything of resale value. This hidden waste makes survivors ultra rare. This hidden waste makes survivors ultra rare. Dodge never tracked them, turning restoration into a treasure hunt. Dodge never tracked them, turning restoration into a treasure hunt. Survivors that emerge now carry provenance questions, missing paperwork, or patched histories. Survivors that emerge now carry provenance questions, missing paperwork, or patched histories. Restorers chase scattered parts, swapping between barns, auctions, and salvage yards. Dealers wrote them off as liabilities in the bottom line of a hard decade. Dealers wrote them off as liabilities in the bottom line of a hard decade. Which is why when a true original surfaces, collectors circle quickly. Values later soared, and those lost to scrap became ghostly opportunity costs. The fact that Dodge never tracked them makes each find a puzzle piece. The fact that Dodge never tracked them makes each find a puzzle piece. Restoration becomes a community effort, trades, leads, and sheer persistence. That scarcity is part of the Daytona mystique. Nose cone material lie? Teaser, not fiberglass, steel to withstand crashes. Nose cone material lie? Teaser, not fiberglass, steel to withstand crashes. Myths claimed lightweight fiberglass but it's durable steel for NASCAR impacts. Dodge let rumors fly to seem innovative, but the truth hid engineering for survival at 200 plus mph. Dodge let rumors fly to seem innovative, but the truth hid engineering for survival at 200 plus mph. Nose cones needed to survive hard contacts. Steel offered predictable deformation and repairability. Steel was heavier, yes, but it protected drivers and framed safer failures. Steel was heavier, yes, but it protected drivers and framed safer failures. Myths claimed lightweight fiberglass, but it's durable steel for NASCAR impacts. Marketing leaned into innovation while engineering favored survivability. Steel allowed track repairs and predictable damage tolerances between races. Steel allowed track repairs and predictable damage tolerances between races. At 200 plus mph, the priority was structural predictability, not a few pounds saved. Modern analysis confirms the alloy choices match heavy-duty collision standards. Modern analysis confirms the alloy choices match heavy-duty collision standards. Rumors outpaced disclosure. Enthusiasts repeated the line until metal proved otherwise. For those who raced them, the steel nose was a known compromise in the name of survival. For those who raced them, the steel nose was a known compromise in the name of survival. Not glamorous perhaps, but essential. A truth that beats a clever rumor. Small details, large consequences, each tells a piece of the Daytona story. Fact 17. Homologation hustle. Hook. Built just enough to race. 503 beat the 500 minimum by a hair. Explanation. NASCAR required 500 street versions, Dodge squeaked by with 503. This bare minimum ploy was hushed to avoid fines, but it legalized the beast for tracks where it dominated. Fact 18, record embarrassment, teaser, broke 200 miles per hour at Talladega, but rivals boycotted. Explanation. In the inaugural race, top drivers skipped in protest over tires. The Daytona's win felt hollow. Dodge downplayed the drama, focusing on speed feats that hid the politics. Fact 19, interior oddity, teaser, wood-rimmed wheel and tack clock combo was standard, luxury in a racer. Despite track focus, it had SE-like comforts like bucket seats and console. Dodge hid this duality to sell it as a pure performer, but it was a weird street-legal hybrid. Fact 20, $1 million myth, Hook. A recent auction hit $3.3 million, but fakes abound. With values exploding, replicas flood the market. Real ones have VIN secrets Dodge never publicized. This hidden authenticity chase keeps collectors hooked, dopamine flowing with every verify. So there you have it. 20 shocking facts about the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. But here's the thing. This isn't the end of the story. Because Dodge wasn't done shocking the world, they built another car. One so extreme NASCAR had to ban it. That's the story I'm covering next. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. So, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Because the next video will change the way you see muscle cars forever.